Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about what the United States fundamentally is or is not. Teaching history, a theory, and we're going to do this because I got a message, got a question to talk about it, a request to talk about it. Bo, can you talk about the absurdity of liberals arguing that we should teach American history that says America is fundamentally racist through Joe Biden's CRT? Biden's support of the theory means nothing because he passed the fundamentally racist 1994 crime bill. Can we please move past the idea that everything is racist and just teach real objective American history? Okay, so just quick little fact checks here. CRT is not Biden's thing. It's an academic movement. It doesn't have anything to do with Joe Biden. That's just not a thing. The 1994 crime bill, that's the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. The sender claims it's fundamentally racist. I happen to agree. With that. And then we have the actual question, what they want discussed. Is the United States fundamentally racist? Well, first we have to determine what that means. Fundamentally racist. If you're just talking about people's attitudes, the people of the United States, are they fundamentally racist? Or generally speaking, are most people racist? Yeah. And that goes through the overwhelming majority of American history. Absolutely. So you could mean that. Or you could mean, is there some structural, institutionalized legislation that is racist? Well, let's just run through a timeline, and we'll see if it's there. Okay, pick your founding date, doesn't matter, 1776, 1789, does not matter, okay? From day one, there was institutional, legal racism. It was enshrined, it was a part of the American structure in slavery. That lasted until the 1860s, and then it went through a fundamental change. Okay? So you have that legal structure in the beginning. When it ended, almost immediately was replaced with a less severe, structural, institutionalized, legal form of racism. And that lasted about 100 years, until the 1960s, late 1960s. That's just black Americans, right there. If we want to stop at this point, you don't even have to get into the Exclusion Act or the treatment of Native Americans. The removal of Native Americans is how it is framed in most American history books. The removal of Native Americans. That is like a really super polite way to describe ethnic cleansing, which is what it was. And that started from day one. And it doesn't matter how you want to define it. At the very least, that went on until 1918, because up until that point, the U.S. military was at arms fighting against natives. That's a pretty big chunk of American history there. But then we have something else, thanks to this email. According to this email, they claim, and I believe, that the 1994 bill, that act, was fundamentally racist. I agree with that. I think it was. I would note that while some of the effects of that have been lessened, that law's still on the books. A fundamentally racist piece of legislation is still there. So from day one, from the founding until today, you have racist legislation. I would suggest that would make a country fundamentally racist. If other nations that are held up as super racist nations studied the United States' laws to figure out how to do it, that might be a good sign too. That happened. The U.S. has a long history of racism. That is objective reality. That's history. That's the truth. You can argue that it shouldn't be taught that way all you want, but at that point you're not arguing that you want history taught a certain way. You're arguing that you want mythology taught a certain way. The United States, its history is littered with racism, with structural, institutionalized racism. Racism that would suggest the country is fundamentally racist. It's just there. This isn't actually a controversial theory as far as the United States being a fundamentally racist nation. Now, CRT is basically just saying, hey, we need to acknowledge this and acknowledge that there are injustices that are occurring, and using a historical lens to do that. That's kind of the purpose of history. You learn history so you don't repeat the mistakes. If the United States was a person who was 100 years old, and you discount this email and the 1994 stuff, and you just run from the founding to the end of segregation, that would mean that the person was 80 years old before they stopped being as racist, overtly racist, and just relied on the more subtle forms. If you met somebody who was 100 years old and throughout 80 years of their life they were overtly racist, you would probably suggest they were fundamentally racist. This isn't controversial. You can ban teaching this all you want, but it's reality. Those are the facts. The United States was founded and built on institutionalized racism. There's no real arguing this. It doesn't matter which pieces you want to count or discount. It's there. It's there underlying the United States' history. Does it get lessened over time? Yeah. Is it gone? No. If it was gone, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Until people are comfortable with acknowledging the past, we have to assume that there's still a lot of racism, because you're denying something that is objective reality. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.